All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it's been an interesting day or so for the Milwaukee Bucks organization as fresh off of firing head coach Adrian Griffin yesterday, they have now pivoted towards hiring veteran head coach Doc Rivers. Now, Rivers is no stranger to the sidelines in the NBA, as you're talking about a guy with 24 years of head coaching experience in the league, not to mention his time playing in the league in the 80s and 90s as a point guard. Now, as a head coach, Rivers has 1,097 career wins, which is ninth all time. But his critics are clearly going to look at his inability to get it done in the postseason. And I say this because Rivers was the head coach when the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship back in 2008. But his career, both prior to that and after that, as a head coach, has been plagued by his teams coming up short in the postseason, which includes consistently blowing series leads, whether it's 3-2 or 3-1. Now, Rivers was just fired last spring by the Philadelphia 76ers after their latest meltdown as they blew a 3-2 series lead in the Eastern Conference semis to the Boston Celtics. In all, when you're talking about Rivers' postseason record, we're talking about 111 and 104. And Doc Rivers has not gotten past the second round of the playoffs since 2012. Now, of course, we saw the Bucks push Adrian Griffin out of the door yesterday, in spite of the fact that they were 30 and 13. And now, you're hearing more stuff coming out as far as, you know, bad chemistry, you name it, just basically not being a good fit, if you will, between coach and team. But you look at this Milwaukee Bucks team, they're clearly in win now mode. You have one of the top players in the NBA, a two-time MVP in Giannis as your centerpiece. And then, of course, you go out there and you make the trade for Damian Lillard. So you're talking about two future Hall of Famers right there, two of the 75 greatest players in NBA history teaming up. So clearly, the spotlight is on this team to go out there and win a championship. This team is in win now mode, but in my opinion, the Bucks did not hire a win now head coach. Now, with so many stops along the way for Doc Rivers, and of course, the success that he had with the Boston Celtics, not living up to expectations with the Los Angeles Clippers, and then of course, you know, the trials and tribulations, if you will, with the Philadelphia 76ers. The question for me is Doc Rivers' message outdated? And I will partially say yes, because if you look at it, Doc is a guy, when he comes to a team, I think everybody's all in, but little by little, it's like a trickle down effect where you know what? The guys simply don't buy into what Doc Rivers is selling anymore. We saw it with the Clippers, we saw it with the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'll say this, and I'm not the only one who's going to say this. That Sixers team quit on Doc Rivers last year in the postseason. And of course, you can't fire the players, but it comes down to the head coach. So if you're the Bucks, you clearly want to win as soon as possible with Doc Rivers. But I think for everybody involved, this is a tricky situation to go to because you're talking about asking Doc Rivers to hop on a train that's already doing 50 miles an hour in midseason. The Bucks are 30 and 13. Clearly, Milwaukee is going to get better defensively under Doc Rivers, and I think that's the big thing right there. Also, it's going to be interesting to see if the Bucks go out there and make a trade or two to come in there and try to bring in some more Doc Rivers type guys. Clearly, you're not going to tinker with the meat and potatoes of this team. And I'm talking about Giannis. I'm talking about Damian Lillard, Brooke Lopez, Chris Middleton, and such. But if you can get in some spare parts for guys who fit that mold as far as playing defensive basketball under Doc Rivers, we got to wait and see if that happens. But like I said yesterday, to me, the Bucks made a bad move on top of a bad move, and now on top of that, they're adding another bad move. And I say this because I really don't feel that Milwaukee should have moved on from Mike Budenholzer after last season. And just like I said yesterday, I will say it again. The Bucks won the NBA championship in 2021 with Mike Budenholzer as their head coach. You go back to 2022, you can make a very compelling case that had Chris Middleton not injured his knee, we're talking about a Bucks team that's possibly repeating as NBA champions. And then, of course, last year in the first round, we saw this Milwaukee team be eliminated by at the hands of the Miami Heat, and a lot of that, in my opinion, was due to the fact that Giannis was hurt. So I think, this Milwaukee front office pushed the panic button last spring when they went out there and decided to move on from Coach Bud. Now, you brought in an inexperienced head coach in Adrian Griffin, where you have a championship team in place. You need you needed an experienced head coach. And I think it's clear to see that. And now you're trying to pivot mid-season, which I think is a tough ask for everybody involved, as far as coach getting adjusted to team and team getting adjusted to head coach. So another question for me is, are the Milwaukee Bucks any closer today to winning an NBA championship than they were yesterday? And I'm going to say no, because it's typically when you see a head coach get fired mid-season, for the most part, you're bringing in somebody who was an assistant head coach. You're bringing in somebody who was familiar with that team. Now you're bringing Doc Rivers in from the outside, and like I said, it's a tough ask to have everybody try to get up to speed, both coach and um, team in the middle of the season. I think that is a very tough ask. But I will say this: I think now more than ever, the pressure's on Giannis and Damian Lillard, because we knew that the pressure was going to be on this team. Anytime that you assemble multiple All Stars, multiple future Hall of Famers on a team, guys who are in their respective primes of their careers, you know the the thermometer goes up, if you will, as far as the expectations. And now you have a head coach that was fired midseason. Of course, you're hearing stories now about Adrian Griffin clashing with Terry Stotts, which is why Terry Stotts resigned midseason. And now, the Bucks are looking to wipe the slate clean and start over. But nonetheless, you got Doc Rivers, you got Damian Lillard, you got Giannis, you got Brooke Lopez, you got Chris Middleton. It's one of those where it's put up or shut up time for the Milwaukee Bucks. Easier said than done. And then at the end of the day, it's also put up or shut up time for Doc Rivers, because honestly, I thought it was going to take a couple of years for Doc Rivers to possibly resurface in the NBA after, being let go by the Philadelphia 76ers. This time around, I think this might be it. Be- Doc Rivers is a future Hall of Fame head coach, but there's always that yeah, but on his resume, as far as, he'll get you to the playoffs, but his teams are going to underachieve. And if the Bucks do indeed underachieve this spring, and of course, in underachieving, not winning an NBA championship or not even coming close to sniffing that NBA championship, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing in Milwaukee. People are going to point fingers at Giannis. People are going to point fingers at this front office. People are going to point fingers at Damian Lillard. And then, of course, people are going to point fingers at Doc Rivers and simply say, here we go again, because he cannot get it done in the postseason. So at the end of the day, all the chips have been pushed to the middle of the table for the Milwaukee Bucks, Doc Rivers, Giannis, and company. And let's see how this new marriage of basketball coach and team are able to work. And let's see if the Bucks are going to be any closer to winning an NBA championship. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds Off Sports Knowledge Podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.